Hey guys, Corey here. I am from Hammer and Anvil on the Blackgate server. Also PvP a lot. I wanted to go over my Ranger build. I get a lot of questions on it. It's a pretty standard Soulbeast build. Just wanted to let you know what exactly I'm doing with it. A lot of people use sword or horn. I'm a big fan of the greatsword still, and of course the longbow with Soulbeast. There are some other great options. Axe is pretty damn solid nowadays. You really can't go wrong with Ranger in a lot of aspects. Unless you're using like a short bow on a power build, you're pretty solid. Now, I wanted to go over my trait line a little bit, because I get a lot of questions on exactly what I'm doing, because I am a boss badass. No. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to let you know what I'm doing, because a lot of people ask me questions. So, for my weapons, like I mentioned, I'm using Greatsword Longbow. For sigils, I have Intelligence, Cleansing, and on the other weapon I'm using Exploitation and Courage. The reason why I'm using this is a little different from what I'm using in World v. World. I'll show you real quick what I'm using in World v. World. I am using Marauder with Scholar, which is very similar to what I'm using here. Same thing with weapons, Marauder. The greatsword I use Bloodlust and Air because stacks are pretty killer. Although you'll hear mixed reviews on stacks nowadays. If you get downed a lot, you're better off putting another offensive sigil in there besides a stacking sigil. But I generally have a pretty good group comp around me, so I stick with the Bloodlust. With the longbow, I use Force and Air. Get that extra 5% damage, similarly to World v. World, where I use the Exploitation. You deal 5% at lower life. This is just straight 5% all the time. Air is a really great proccing sigil. Gives you that extra little bit of damage. Really can help out in some rapid fires. Now, as far as gear is concerned, everything's Marauder except for my trinkets. They are mostly Zerk. I have 2 Assassin's earrings. But yeah, it ends up being really good. Now, as far as traits is concerned, I use Wilderness, I use Beast Mastery, and I use Soulbeast. Now, the Wilderness Survival, some people choose either Marksmanship above either of these things. Personally, I think that's a mistake. You can get a great bit more of burst out of Marksmanship, including piercing arrows if you want to go that route. However, it's kind of more of a one-trick pony. You will live longer and kill more with this trait line. You get a lot more Condi Cleanse, CC, just overall goodness out of it, including more regen and protect synergy, which I'll go over in a minute. A aspect you'll want to keep in mind for World v. World, a lot of people use straight up regular power food or power ferocity food. I actually use, it's a little more expensive, you can get a cheaper version of this, but I use the Orient Truffle and Meat Stew. The 100% chance to gain Might on dodge is okay, but the main reason why I'm using it is for the 40% endurance regeneration. That has huge synergy with Natural Vigor. In fact, if you're newer to Ranger, in PvP, I'd suggest putting, even though it's not the same amount you can get from World v. World, I'd suggest putting energy runes in your weapons just when you're starting out. Maybe even a Paladin amulet, but what I'm using once you're comfortable is optimal, in my opinion. Now, this endurance is just great. The more you dodge, the more you live. The more you dodge, the more protect you get too, the more you live. So, 25% endurance regeneration. Soften the fall. Anytime you take falling damage or use your heal skill, which is crucial in PvP, every time I use my heal skill, I drop a Mighty Terrain. And because I have Wilderness knowledge traded, that Mighty Terrain skill is going to give me a little bit of Fury, but most importantly, CC around anything that's hitting me a ton. You got 3 impairment skills on that. Also, that's Condi Cleanse, so removing 2 Condis. I personally use We Heal as 1, but if you were to go with the Troll Ungent Heal, which a lot of people do, that's 4 Condi Cleanses right there. Same thing with Entangle. If you were to use Entangle, that's 2 Condi Cleanses, but if you go with something like Leadership Runes, which a lot of people do. You can remove 4 condies with your Entangle. However, I don't do that. I use Scholar, more DPS, more death, more wins. Now, as far as the next trait line, sub-trait I should say, Companion's Defense. Now, you get a little bit of protection every time you dodge roll in combat. That makes that endurance huge, like I mentioned. It also synergizes with some other stuff I'll get to in a minute. Shared Anguish, really great. If somebody is trying to knock you around, the first knock they hit you with won't happen. It does say transfer to your pet. However, if you absorb your pet, still don't get knocked. It's still just a good sub-trait. With that in mind, some people prefer Refined Toxins, even though they're power build. The reason for this, oops, got a little action around me. The reason for this is because with Refined Toxins, even though you're not traded for Condi damage, you are nerfing heals. So anybody with high regen, Burst Heal Guardians, or even Elementalists, you are nerfing their capacity to heal themselves, which is huge for burning down a bunker. However, like I said, I like to live as much as possible since I'm mostly glass. Shared Anguish is my way to go. Not being CC'd for a second really helps out because I get 2 stun breakers between my Quickening Zephyr and also my Beast Mode. And of course, I get stability from that. But I don't have the most stun breakers in the world, so it's good to keep in mind. Now, with Beast Mastery is pretty great. Synergizes exceptionally well with Soulbeast. I mean, they both have Beast in the name. Beast Mode over here. Now, Pack Alpha, it's good. Increases your pet stats. Also affects you when you absorb. Shouts are huge, in my opinion. You can go stances with Soulbeast, and it is quite effective. However, I'm just a big fan of shouts. I've been using them forever. I'm comfortable with them. I like being able to dish out a little swiftness and regen, not only to myself, but allies around me. Just really helps out with battle. The reason why I like this regen so much, I'll get to in 1 second. Loud Whistle, of course, deal more damage with your pet. Also quicker pet swap charge, recharge, which is huge. Natural Healing. This is really great because your pet recovers health at each interval. Now, at each interval, you regain 375 health. Now, if you remember before, we went into this line, and every time you have protection, you also get health, and it's even quicker. It's a little less on the healing, but it's every 1 second as opposed to 3. So between this, and your regen from heal skills, you're able to put out a good amount of sustain without even investing in heal. Now, Pet's Prowess, that works amazingly well because, like I've mentioned, when you absorb your pet, things that affect your pet affect you. That is especially true with this trait. They actually just improved it. It used to be half the ferocity. You used to only get 150 when your pet was absorbed. Now when you absorb your pet, you actually get the full 300 ferocity. And if you're using a pet that has ferocity on it, you also get ferocity from that. You also get the 30% movement increase, so you don't even potentially have to have quickness. What the heck is hitting me over here?
Such might! I chose you, Sicko!
Appears that I got trained. Somebody didn't finish their meat. You gotta finish your meals, guys. People are trying to do videos over here. You can't play. This will be a good chance to show you something. Headbutt, Spike. That is why I choose the Gazelle over the Snow Owl. A lot of people choose Snow Owl because it's got a leap as well and some supportive skills. Same reason why people choose Jacaranda or the Bear over the Gazelle. It's got supportive skills, but I really like being able to put things down as much as possible with this build. I'm not a huge purist. I have a couple hybrid builds, but when I'm going all offense, I like to just be able to crush things. That's why you have supportive allies around you, right? So, back to the build. Now, where were we? We're talking about Pet's Prowess. That 30% movement speed is huge. It's only 3% less than Swiftness, which is massive, really. It's incredibly rare to find a trait like this. Most sub-traits that have speed on them, like the Warrior's trait that gives them speed when they have melee weapons equipped, there's a few other traits like that along the lines of classes. It's all 25% speed, so that 30% is awesome. Grandmaster, I use quickening, or Zephyr Speed rather. When I swap pets, I get quickness. It's like a mini quickening Zephyr, which I already have on the bar. So I can pump out a good amount of quickness, which is great for butt down. Super speed, which is great for escaping. But also that 2 Condi removal and Fury. That Condi removal is huge on the pet swap. Same thing with your Muddy Terrain, and of course quickening Zephyr. Can really save your butt in certain situations. Now, as far as Soulbeast is concerned, some people do a little different than this, but most people will be rocking the traits that I'm rocking, especially in PvP. You start off with, of course, the regular sub-trait, which gives you basically everything you can do. Pet Absorb, yada yada. First trait, I do Unstoppable Union. Some people prefer either of these two. They're both really good. Fresh Reinforcement is huge in World v World. A lot of people really like this because you can just stay crazy booned up. There's a couple boon builds on Soulbeast in general that can really benefit from this. Basically, whenever you absorb your pet, any boons that are on your pet affect you. If you go stances, I highly recommend you go this route, mainly because the We Heal as 1 won't be in play. You'll be using that stance heal, which is epic. It can really, really do a lot of good. Like I said, I prefer We Heal as 1 for a lot of different reasons. But the stance heal is pretty good, and with that sub trait, you get a ton of boons when you absorb your pet, which is pretty epic. But I prefer the Unblockable. Really helps out against people with shields, guardians, warriors, Ellies with reflex, you name it. Really helps out. The sub trait, 7 more damage when you have Fury. Of course, that's great. Synergizes well with the 5% damage upgrade in your longbow. Also synergized with some other traits, including this one right here, 5% more damage when you disable a foe. Also 10% damage when your health is higher than your enemies. That's half the reason why I use the Marauder Amulet over Berserker. Besides just living longer, that 10% damage is huge on top of everything else. So me having higher health, once I damage people, I get into that range for 10% more damage much quicker. Going back quick second to this middle sub-trait, Second Skin. This has a ton of synergy with the other trait lines I've already mentioned. It makes it so protection affects you versus Condi damage as well as physical. Not everybody realized until this trait came out, I guess, that protection only protected against physical damage, not Condi damage. So reducing the Condi damage is pretty epic, especially when you're trying to deal max DPS and you have a handful of Condi cleanses, but it's not going to be covering forever. That is pretty epic. So between that, on dodge, you get protection, and the protection from regeneration. This build just has a ton of protection synergy. So it just ends up being really good. One thing to mention too is combos. You want to learn your stealth combos really well. The smoke skill has some great moves. That smoke field, you want to make sure you do it either behind or at the back edge of that field. If you do it towards the front of the field, you might not get the stealth combo. You actually have to leap through it. So if you're at the very front of the ring of smoke, you're probably not going to get it. You can leap out of it, obviously, but if you're at the very, let me see if I can get it to not trigger right. So like say you're right here at the very edge of it, if you try and leap, you're not going to get anything. So that's why you got to do it from either like directly in the middle, or you could even potentially dodge roll back and leap through it. Whatever you need to do to get behind that smoke ring. Now, when you're fighting your foe, one of the best combos you can do, this is what I'll leave you with here, is you send your pet in, you do the smoke, you do the absorb, quickness. Now you'll notice I didn't hit him there, but what I did do was I still went into stealth. If I did hit him with that leap finisher, the F3 skill, I would have dealt massive damage and stealth, potentially even downed him while going into stealth. Now, that's huge. You can get your spike off, you can get more into a more convenient area for more combat. There's a whole lot of factors that go into play with that. You really want to get in and out with Ranger. You want to burst, get out, burst, get out, burst, get out. And if you are cleaving, one of the best things you can do with cleaving is auto attack with Greatsword. It is highly underrated with that. The main reason why is you'll notice the power stab at the end of this ability is an evade. Especially if you have quickness on, you are evading a lot with auto attack. So you don't even necessarily want to maul in a cleave situation. You want to just keep spamming that auto attack so you keep getting that third evade. It can really help out. Plus the force skill, if you're really getting pressure, you can kite around with it, get a ton of block-ins. It's just good. It's really good. The Gazelle I actually use for escape more often than not. Escape and finishers. A lot of people like the Snow Owl because it also has a leap move and a heal, but really I'm trying to put out as much DPS as possible, and if you can break combat and get out with a double leap, you're going to regenerate your health anyways. So by breaking combat, you regen all your life. So that heal is almost not necessary if you're doing a double leap out. Like, see if I can get the trigger here. So I hit him, leap, leap, and I'm out of combat. Works on players too. So it's like, say if I was at low life, I would have regenerated all my health starting right there. Really great for breaking. It's got a quick cooldown too, only 12 seconds. It's a daze. Snow Owl doesn't have a daze on it. Also has Worldly Impact. It shares the same timer as the Worldly Impact on the smoke scale, but the way you're swapping and keeping your pet unabsorbed, a lot of people, and I might have said this earlier, I'll say it again, release your pet. Your pet is a secondary form of damage, plus the more you release it, the more you can kite around while your pet's still applying pressure, and the more you can absorb and get that unblockable status. That unblockable status is huge for put down power. You'll see on some of my videos, I go right through people with their shields, right through people with their reflex. It's really crucial. You can even potentially knock them back and get them out of any kind of bubble that they have with the force skill. So in my opinion, pound for pound, you should not have your pet absorb the whole time. That is a rookie Soulbeast mistake. So if you get good at releasing and absorbing, your game will go up a lot. You'll be a lot better at this. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. If you have any questions or concerns, you can message me in-game at Korg2195. Let me double check that because it's been a while. Yep, Korg2195. You can go ahead and message me. My in-game name is Korg Snowstrider, or sometimes I'll be on Korg Skull Crusher. Man, I can't talk today. I need coffee. But yeah, this is my first build video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks.